Okay, we've packed it in here, haven't we? So thank you so much for finding time to join myself and my colleagues here today with a bit of a catch up on the John Hunter Health and Innovation Precinct. Before we get started, I'm sure you do what I do every now and then, is look out the back and go, that building's getting higher, that building's getting higher. So it'll be good today to catch you up as to where that building actually is and I guess how far we're progressing. Acknowledging the people online, thank you for joining. Please bear with us. Sometimes technology escapes me. My background is as a nurse educator, which I probably remember the most fondly. I'm just looking for Sally, who was also a nurse educator. And I still look back to the days, believe it or not, overhead projectors. Can you believe it? You controlled it. It was very good. I could draw a lung fairly well. Those days have passed. Okay, let's get started, everyone. Hi, guys. Grab a seat. Lovely to see you. She, as I said, says it ever so confidently. She tries to find the mouse. There it is. Let's hope this works. There we go. That's me, in case you didn't know. So I am the Executive General Manager of the hospital, and it's a role I'm very proud to be in, particularly at this time when there's so much change coming on. To think that we'll be part of the future, not only do we get to introduce a brand new spanking part of our hospital, but we also get to see the single digital patient record coming, which I think will be the greatest change in healthcare in my career and perhaps others as well. Okay, so one of my favourite parts of any meeting is to acknowledge the traditional lands of the people we're meeting on. So today we certainly are meeting on the lands of the Awabakal and Worimi people. And I really want to remind you that the Awabakal and Worimi people have been custodians of this land for some 60,000 years. I always think that is extremely remarkable, 60,000 years of guardianship of this land. And it's very much part of our responsibility to ensure that we create a culture that's safe and welcoming for the traditional owners of our lands. I wanted to acknowledge that there's so many local elders and members of our 4 local Aboriginal land councils, along with more than 40 Aboriginal staff who took part in a NAIDOC Week celebration just recently. We're so proud of the relationship we have with building this new building with the Awabakal, the Biraban and the Buttabar land councils. Just a few things that jump to mind is the times that they've collected saplings, the times that they've been checked out whether there's flora and fauna, the time that they found ochre, which is a very sacred element in the grounds, and that was able to be preserved and collected for appropriate use. So there's a lot of work happening continuously in the new build to ensure that we observe the rights of our local Aboriginal people and respect their heritage and culture. So very much part of healthcare. It echoes with that as well. Okay, so where are we up to with this construction timeline? I have to say this is something that I see a lot and I think, oh God, it feels like we're miles away from where we need to be. We are progressing quite nicely along that paradigm, as you can see. You can see that little red dashy line that indicates that where we're up to. Sometimes I forget that this started in 2022 in terms of early works commencement. Remember, the planning happened long before that. So we've been going on a fairly long journey. And I guess as we see that the main building works will scheduled for completion in 2026, it's really exciting to see that we're getting closer to that line. Also a little bit anxiety producing. I don't know about you, it seems to be in equal levels for me at the moment. But we do have a lot of work to go to get to 26. The other thing I'm always reminded of and also excited about is the fact that we're doing refurbishment. I think nothing would be worse to walk through the old entry of the John Hunter and there see, wow, look at that beautiful building. I wish I was on that side. So I'm really pleased that we are doing that. An important thing to remind people is I have heard rumours, and I hear some great ones. McDonald's isn't coming on site, just as a reference point. Ronald McDonald House is definitely here, but we aren't bringing on an open, drive-through takeaway thing. The other rumour is that all of the wards aren't moving or being refurbished at this time. Certainly, I think what I commit to you to do is that we will clean up our wards. So one of the things the executive has taken on recently is doing roundings, environmental audits and such in ward areas. I have to say I was my eyes were open wide when I went into a ward recently. I went into a couple. One was absolutely brilliant, really well maintained and looked after. And the other one, it really needs some love and care. And that's certainly not a reflection of the team. The team are working so hard. But I think what happens is we get a bit blinkered and we don't notice holes in the wall. Yes, that's right, holes in the wall. So one of the things that I'm really keen to do is we do that repair work, we do a repaint, we get the place looking smashing in all those ward areas, so we're good to go. So a lot of work to still happen to move forward. And just for everyone's information, there certainly has been work in terms of, do we get a second building? Will that come? Clearly, it's not in this scope of works, but it's something that the district is working with the ministry around, and something that I'm sure we'll all get to see in our future. It'd be good if I could use the slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this wheel, I'm also looking for how to run a hospital wheel. I haven't found that yet, but I feel if you do find that, that would be an extraordinary valuable tool. So the wheel is how to build a hospital, which is a handy thing to have. And as you can see, that planning started way back in 2019, and it certainly involved many different disciplines of staff. And it talked around the clinical, administrative, support spaces, public areas, as well as the detailed engineering systems. There certainly has been key consultation forums between the integrated project team and the clinical stakeholders. And I guess if you look back to 2019, that's a ways ago, that's pre-COVID. And I think the world's changed in many, many paradigms since then. Very much the team uses tried and tested best practices from Australian health facility guidelines, which utilised across Australia and New Zealand. However, we've also listened deeply to feedback from clinicians, and I think sometimes you can lose focus in what that actually meant. So if I recall back to these original days, we're actually not moving so much of the children's hospital into there and the maternity services, but we realised that we needed to link the PICU, the NICU, to the operating theatre, to the birthing suite. So very much on the advice of our clinicians, we changed the framework. Very much the impetus for the new build has been the critical care footprint, but I have to say that change of adding women's health and reproductive services has been a big call back from our clinicians on this campus to make it safe and appropriate. So very much those users have been involved, and it relates, as you can see, to that whole bit around business cases, functional briefs, master plan, and certainly the clinical services plan. I get asked about the clinical services plan a lot over time. Remember, that would have been written in 2019. We have evolved, we have changed. So we as an executive will re-review the clinical services plan. That doesn't mean we're going to all of a sudden say, hey, let's get rid of the emergency department. We won't do that anymore. It means that we just want to refine and check where we're heading, and that we're heading in the right direction with contemporary needs. But I guess, you know, it's pretty interesting to see how big that planning process can be. So the design phase, again, it took in a lot of different projects, different people. I can remember going to many PUG meetings. Remember the number at the top, 300 plus meetings. I spent a lot of time with a lot of different clinicians. Over time, though, people change roles and people move on to different careers or pick up different opportunities. So I guess a lot of those people who were in the original PUGs may have changed, and sometimes people get the illusion then that we haven't been consulting with clinicians. But very much that happened in that early design phase and getting that expertise of our staff. These are the people that were the key participants in the project user group. I think PUG sounds terrible. Anyway, in the project user group, you can see there's a few of our colleagues are still with us. Thank goodness, please don't go. But a few of them have moved on, and we've brought in different advice. It has been a process, though, of really trying to get the absolute most contemporary modelling of what we need into this system. Okay. Over here is the clinical involvement. And I talked about that, I guess, briefly, but I guess it's really about thinking that the groups met approximately once every 4 to 6 weeks, in line with the 3 major design milestones, which is concept, schematic, and detailed. The concept stage covered where services would be located, and these meetings were held throughout 2019. The following year, we moved into schematic design, and focus was turned to the layout of each service. Where would staff stations go? Where would the bathrooms be located? Where would the storerooms be located? Then in 2021, remember COVID, bang, 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 we're in the midst of it. We really drilled down to the design of each room and the clinical workstation. And again, if I reflect that, it was us moving from in-person meetings to virtual meetings to, oh my God, email discussions about things. We tried every mode of communications. Then our PUGs finalised their recommendations, and these were absolutely signed off by the John Hunter and John Hunter Children's Exec in mid-22. That's a big thing to remember. That means that pretty much the detailed design, and this section of the graph, or the table rather, is very much completed in its finalisation stage. We're always happy to hear concerns, but we really can't make fundamental changes. I met with a team recently who were keen to change things. I made it very explicit. The walls are the walls, the building's the building, the room design is where the room design is. We need to adapt our work practices in some aspects to meet where we are. Though, however, if you have concerns that you're worried about, recently anaesthetics have come to me with some concerns, then I absolutely want to hear about it, and we certainly will investigate. I can't guarantee you that we can make massive change. Okay, so as we talk about this sort of thing, I'd like to invite Amanda Turrell up. And as you know, Amanda is the Service Manager of Medical and Interventional Services and does some tremendous work there. Has been involved pretty much since the get-go, although she did run off and set up a vaccination clinic in the midst of it all. It's good to see that she's come back.
I think it was one of those phone calls that I took, like, woo. And this one's one of those phone calls, woo, on the spot. So yes, I'm Amanda Turrell. I'm the Service Manager for Medical and Interventional Services. I've been with MNIS, which we shortened it to, for a long time, for about 18 years, and have held different positions. And it's a privilege for me now to be the Service Manager. At the beginning of this project back in 2019, I was the Deputy Director of Nursing, and was involved with Mario O'Donnell, Michael Boyle, fundamentally as the Executive for Medical and Interventional Services in the initial clinical development of the clinical services plan for MNIS. And we have just shy of 20 subspecialties under our umbrella. So we work very closely with the heads of departments and the clinical leads in those areas to put together our clinical service plan as to what we thought would happen over the next 10, 15 years or so. That then led into being involved in the initial plugs, a plug for the project, PUGs. I think little dog's going to run on here. And we, whilst they didn't sit under our services, we were involved initially in operating theatres, emergency department, the CSSD, cardiology and MACU initially, just because I guess that with all the planning, it's looking at the key relationships that there are between all of the services to inform, I guess, as to what was going to go into the ASB, what that looked like, how that planning would be. That then led into service PUGs for services that sat under medical and interventional services. And when the design was made as to what the ASB would be, we were advised that there was 5 of our services that would move over to the ASB, being MACU, the cardiology close observation unit, which is a combined service of our current CCU and ANU, our cardiac cath labs, our endovascular neurointervention lab, and the endoscopy services. And whilst it is that those services will be going over into the new building, we also needed to focus on our existing services that weren't transferred over there, but what the changes would mean with those relationships. And so I've done a lot of consultation with all of those services. We do a lot of diagnostic work in different labs across John Hunter and within our CSUs, and we need to take that into consideration outside of what our inpatient relationships, etc., would be. All of our service pugs have clinical leads that are involved in them. So, and as Julie pointed out, over the 5 years that this has been going, there has been some changes in our manpower and changes in positions like myself. And then I did step out and go to the vaccination centre for 15, 16 months, and Michelle Drinkwater, who's now the Deputy Director of Nursing for Medicine, stepped in to be involved in the pugs during the design detail phase. But for us, we've got Mackie that we're going over, which would be 38 beds, and Dr. Ruth Thompson, Karen Hine, who was the NUM, was involved, and Alex Mexon, who's now the NUM. For the cardiology close observation unit, Associate Professor Nick Collins and Kylie Winchester are the leads for there. These will be 18 beds. Cath lab will go from 3 to 5, and Associate Professor Nick Collins and Dr. Nick Jackson, Deb Bick, who was a previous NUM of the Cath lab, and now Shalini Singh are the leads for that one. Endovascular neurointervention, always tongue ties me that one. Associate Professor Ferdy Mitteff and CNC Lyndall Cruikshank's involved with theirs. They will have one lab, but the interventional radiology labs will be up cohorted together, and that's a body of work that we need to, that we're currently looking at, is because all of our interventional labs will be together. And we've got the endoscopy unit with Associate Professor Stephen Bolippo, Nadine Pilley, who was the previous NUM for endoscopy, and now Donna Nelson leading that. Work more recently that we've done involved in the project associated with medicine is that we moved 28 beds up to the new Maitland Hospital to facilitate for us to be able to do the bridge work, which Peter will speak to in a little while. And we've moved G1 to E1. And then we're just getting ready to collaborate with critical care to move H2 to H3. So if anybody's confused, I'm confused as to who's what. And now personally involved in the transition working group. So this is around the delivery phase of the wheel. So these are fortnightly meetings that are with the John Hunter and John Hunter Children's Hospital exec, looking at, I guess, how do we do that move? What's involved in that? What is our current model of care? What do we need to do to change when we move over? Are we contemporary? Are we not? What sort of workforce will we need? What will be the gap in that? If we were to open everything, how do we do that in a staged fashion? What equipment will be new in the building? What do we need to move? And so all of that is currently in play. So that's my involvement and from a service level. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Amanda and Julie. My name is Peter Cooper. I am the communications manager for the project, and I work for Health Infrastructure, who are the people who run the delivery of the project in partnership with the local health district and our project managers and of course our construction partners, Multiplex. So beyond all of that planning, we also have been running groups since 2022 to consult with clinical staff about everything that you'll find in the new building. So that ranges from the types of facade, what type of glass is in the window, what is the carpets, even the kitchen sinks, the hospital sinks. So here you can see the group that are in our prototype rooms, and they go through loads and loads of different types of products for every single thing that you can think of, and put them through their paces to make sure that they're fit for purpose and will provide you with the support that you need. There are also more rigorous testing done by the H&E simulation team, and one of the sessions in particular was really useful in terms of identifying where some changes for inpatient rooms might be made in case of issues like an emergency resuscitation. So it's really putting them through their real life scenarios to make sure that they work. There's also more groups that deal with house comms, working out to staff, out to the community. There's working groups about the art that will be involved in the new building. obviously how we engage with our Aboriginal community and also our wider stakeholder consultative committee. So the takeaway really is there is an enormous amount of consultation that is done that has started way back in 2019 and continues.